So for question one, what is the capital of Germany? The answer was Berlin. Um, I thought it was interesting when I was looking up facts about Berlin. Um, During the Cold War, it was split between East and West Germany, but originally it had been split instead into four different blocks between the US, the British, the French, and Soviets. But because of tensions and politics, um, instead, the three blocks that belong to the Americans, French, and British all combined into one called the Federal Republic of Germany, and that was West Germany or West Berlin. And then the Soviets instead formed the German Democratic Republic, and that was Eastern Berlin. I thought that was interesting. And the reason that I guess this could go for either Berlin or the Berlin airlift, but I put it under Berlin. The reason that the airlift was necessary was because when the Western Berlin slash West Germany was doing a lot better economically than the eastern side, and so they introduced a new currency, and that really helped stimulate the economy. And when the economic differences between the two sides became embarrassingly obvious, that's the reason that Stalin stopped, like wouldn't let anything be imported into West Berlin, and that's why it was necessary. So I put that under Berlin. I thought it was really interesting. I thought for the airlift, it was really interesting that in addition to just the U.S., pilots and aircrew also came from Australia, Canada, South Africa, and New Zealand. So you don't really hear about that a lot. You mostly just hear about the U.S. and what the U.S. did. And similarly, the cost of the airlift was extensive for the U.S. It cost $350 million. The UK, it cost 17 million euros, and the Germans had to pay 150 million Deutschmarks. So even though you hear primarily, I think because we're in America, about the US and how we orchestrated this huge thing, it was not just us, it was also other countries that had a phenomenal impact and helped out a lot. About Rammstein, the band, I thought it was interesting that in their biography on their website, they described their music as a horror romanticist blend of theater and music. I just thought that was a really interesting way to describe it. It's a lot harder. It's like kind of like a metal almost, but I don't know. Just that was like a weird way to phrase it for me, I thought. And then I discovered that they got their name by adding an M to the middle of the name of a location of a German tragedy where 80 people were killed in an American, I think it was an American flight demonstration or something like that. So that was really interesting. So it became, instead of just Rammstein, it became Rammstein with two M's in the middle. And then for the Berlin Wall, this is the last question that I did. I forget. So the Rammstein question was number 4, and then the Berlin Wall was 15. I thought that it was interesting that although people consider November 9th, 1989, the day that the wall fell, it really wasn't until December 23rd that Germans were allowed to cross over from East to West Berlin without a visa, which had cost money. But even more importantly, it wasn't until June 13th, 1990 that the wall was officially dismantled in Bernauer Strasse, and then it spread from there. November 9th is more of a symbolic thing. It's where, like, the the like the idea of the wall was gone. So people started like pulling it apart and ripping it apart, and the German officials wouldn't do anything. The East German officials wouldn't do anything to stop them. So I thought that was interesting.